Tonight, we prove the American housing market is worse than the 2008 financial crisis. You have been told this time is different, that low foreclosures and high home equity will save us. That is a lie. In 2008, the danger was hidden in toxic mortgage debt. Today, the danger is visible and unavoidable. A structural crisis fueled by impossible affordability and the insurance collapse meltdown. Across 12 states, the cost of simply owning a home has become an impossible, unpayable debt. Policyholders are being abandoned by every major insurer, forcing the market into a free-fall that makes the last Great Recession look like a warm-up. We expose the 12 states that will fall first, the cities where insurance premiums have jumped 34% in a single year, and the two major states where the government is now the only insurance option. The core difference is simple: affordability. Back then, the average borrower was underwater due to predatory subprime loans. Today, the consumer is crushed by affordability paralysis. The average U.S. home now demands 60% of the median household income. We have priced out an entire generation. In fact, the median multiple the ratio of house price to household incomes, now the highest it has ever been in U.S. history, a statistic far exceeding the peak of the 2006 bubble. But the single worst threat is the insurance exodus. Think back to 2008. The crisis was hidden inside complex financial products. Mortgage-backed securities failed. Today, the crisis is out in the open. It's the skyrocketing cost of the roof over your head, driven by climate risk and corporate retreat. The equity you think you have, it vanishes the moment your home becomes uninsurable. Major carriers have looked at the climate models, they've looked at the liability, and they have decided it is no longer profitable to insure America. They are not just raising prices, they are leaving states entirely. This turns a mortgage into a financial time bomb. A home may have equity, but an uninsurable home is worth zero to the bank. The contagion has moved from the financial sector to the real economy. A type of structural breakdown the Dodd-Frank Act was never designed to stop. Number 12, Minnesota. We start in the Midwest, a market historically defined by stability, but recent data shows a massive surge in storm-related claims, forcing premiums up over 8% in a single year. This shows the crisis is no longer coastal. The Midwest is structurally exposed to the meltdown. Homeowners here are seeing their premiums rise at nearly triple the national inflation rate. What makes Minnesota's 8% premium jump so alarming is the trend. This isn't a one-off adjustment. It reflects a new baseline risk assessment for severe weather previously thought contained to the coasts. The heartland is no longer immune. Number 11, Nebraska. Following the trend, Nebraska now has some of the highest home insurance costs in the entire nation. This turns the otherwise affordable housing into an ongoing financial burden, forcing a slow-motion collapse of local affordability in its regional markets. This is compounded by low inventory, keeping initial entry prices artificially high even as debt grows. In Nebraska, the average annual home insurance premium now exceeds $5,500 in some counties. Among the highest in the U.S., when combined with property taxes, the carrying cost erodes any benefit of the state's lower initial home prices. Number 10, Colorado, the wildfire time bomb. Colorado's boom was a speculative fire, and now the state is battling real ones. Insurance carriers are cutting off entire mountain communities. The risk of uninsurable homes is rising fast, threatening to freeze home sales completely in large, valuable regions. Foreclosure rates, while still low nationally, have jumped 15% in Colorado's highest-risk counties. The impact is immediate. Realtors in higher-risk zones like Boulder County report home sales freezing entirely for properties unable to secure coverage. Without insurance, banks will not issue mortgages. The market simply stops. Number 9, Arizona. The Arizona housing boom was fueled by massive investor speculation. Now, that speculation is reversing. We are seeing a massive surge in inventory as investors bail out. This supply flood in Phoenix and Tucson, combined with extreme heat risk, guarantees double-digit price corrections. New listings are up 28% year-over-year, far outpacing buyer demand. Data shows institutional investors reduced their single-family rental holdings in Phoenix by 18%. 6% in just the last quarter. They see the writing on the wall. Rising carrying costs and falling rents make these assets unprofitable. Number 8. Arkansas. Arkansas reported the second highest loss ratio for home insurers. What does that mean? The state is an uninsurable risk, and we're seeing premiums soar by 9%, a cost that homeowners must absorb directly. This translates to an average annual premium increase of over $400 in a state where median household income is below the national average. The state's uninsurable risk profile stems from its location in Tornado Alley, compounded by recent increases in severe hail frequency. Insurers simply cannot price the escalating damage, forcing them to either dramatically raise rates or leave. Number 7. Georgia. Georgia represents the epicenter of the southern debt bubble. High mortgage rates are combining with massive consumer debt, threatening widespread foreclosures that will push property values into the ground. Consumer debt delinquency rates in the Atlanta metro area have climbed 11%, signaling a breaking point for Main Street consumers. Specifically, auto loan and credit card delinquencies among homeowners in Georgia have hit levels not seen since 2009. This indicates severe stress on household budgets before accounting for rising housing costs, creating a foreclosure time bomb. We've now exposed half the list, but the collapse only gets worse. The top 6 states face the triple threat, the perfect storm of high debt, insurance abandonment, and political paralysis. We saved the states where major national carriers have explicitly pulled out for the final countdown. Number 6. Texas. Texas's massive growth has hit a wall. While the economy remains robust, the housing costs do not. Hail, wind, and flood risks are driving up premiums relentlessly. The total property tax burden in Texas, combined with rising insurance, makes long-term ownership fiscally impossible for a majority of new buyers. The median home price increase since 2020 has been nearly 52%, far outrunning wage growth. Texas relies heavily on property taxes due to its lack of state income tax. This means homeowners face a double squeeze: insurance premiums soaring due to weather risk, and property taxes climbing to fund local services. It's unsustainable. Number 5. New York. New York's sheer debt load is the issue. The costs associated with its urban centers and rising flood insurance in coastal areas mean the property values are propped up by high-income earners who will simply leave when the debt becomes too large. The median rent in New York City now consumes 70% of the average hourly wage, a completely unsustainable ratio. Federal flood maps are being redrawn, placing thousands more coastal New York properties into higher-risk zones. The result? Flood insurance costs alone can add $5,000 to $10,000 annually. Making waterfront living a luxury only the ultra-rich can now afford. Number 4. California. The Golden State is ground zero for the wildfire crisis. Insurers are non-renewing policies. En masse, we are seeing major insurers like Allstate and State Farm severely restrict new policies, leaving homeowners stranded. This has forced tens of thousands of residents into the high-cost state-mandated FAIR Plan, a system never designed for this scale of dependency. The California FAIR Plan, the state's insurer of last resort, saw enrollment jump by over 20% last year. It's becoming the default insurer in many areas, shifting billions in risk directly onto taxpayers while offering less coverage at higher prices. Number 3. North Carolina. North Carolina's coastal markets are booming, but highly vulnerable. The hurricane risk guarantees that the property insurance crisis will escalate rapidly here, triggering an unwinding of speculative real estate investment in the coastal towns. This speculation led to a 45% increase in short-term rental properties, now facing vacancy and price cuts. The short-term rental boom masked underlying weakness. As insurance costs rise and tourism potentially cools, owners who bought purely for Airbnb income faced negative cash flow, forcing sales into an already softening market. Number 2. Louisiana. Louisiana is structurally failing. This state is dealing with the unholy trinity: high pension debt, high poverty, and the worst hurricane risk. The state's final backstop, the Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, is overwhelmed and financially fragile. The state now reports that over 19% of all residential policies are held by this fragile government-backed insurer. Louisiana's Citizens Property Insurance already holds nearly 1/5 of the state's residential policies. This concentration of risk is unprecedented and leaves the state exceptionally vulnerable to insolvency after a single major hurricane. Number 1. Florida. Florida is the absolute culprit and the definition of a market failure worse than 2008. Over 30 home insurance companies have either pulled out or gone bankrupt. The state's taxpayer-backed insurer, Citizens Property Insurance, is now the largest insurer, meaning every single Florida taxpayer is now on the hook for the next major hurricane. To put Florida's crisis in perspective, the average annual premium often exceeds $6,000, compared to a national average closer to $2,000. This isn't just expensive. It's a barrier to entry, forcing demographic shifts and market stagnation. The 2008 crash was solved by a bailout of the banks. This one cannot be. The crisis is not subprime loans. It is the cost of existence. It is the insurance, the debt, and the political failure. Unlike 2008, a federal bailout seems unlikely for the insurance crisis. The scale is too vast, and the root cause, climate change and decades of poor zoning, cannot be fixed with cheap money. The burden will fall squarely on homeowners and taxpayers. This collapse is structural, and for millions of Americans, IT is already here. If you are a homeowner, a taxpayer, or an investor, you must know what this crisis means for your investment. To learn where the money is actually safe, subscribe now for our next deep dive into the 5 safest states.